Retail will never stand still. The customer will never stand still. So to have that flexibility, I think to know and understand what's next for you and what's next for your customer means that you'll always be ahead.
Hello and welcome to Retail Power Talks. Today we have with us Melissa Moore, award-winning retail consultant, trainer, lecturer, and the voice behind the Retail Tea Break podcast. Melissa's got over 25 years of hands-on experience working with national and international brands, guiding retail teams across different cultures and teaching the next generation of retail leaders. She has also been recognized as the top retail expert by Rethink Retail and named one of the top 100 global retail technology influencers for 2025. Melissa, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a lovely introduction that was, Zeenish. Thank you.
So you've seen retail evolve dramatically over the past couple of decades, from traditional brick and mortar to today's hybrid connected, omni-everything environment. What's been the biggest mindset shift that you've seen globally?
I think, and really, even with that shift, my own career, because I started off working in bricks and mortar, so physical retail. And back then, it was very much about footfall, getting the customer through the door. How much money were you making today? And I know that's still important for retail, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, retail businesses are businesses. But I think now what I'm seeing, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's from really strong retailers out there, is yes, we have to drive footfall and sales, but actually we have to connect to our customer. So I'm definitely seeing this shift towards a more emotional connection, that retailers really want to understand their customer. They want to meet them in a way that suits the customer, not just the retailer. And with that then drives this kind of real urge for lifetime value. So we've stopped thinking about it as one basket shopping or just one instance that I'm popping to a store for a one-off purchase. Now we're looking to drive them back to our stores, back to our websites, onto our app, time and time again. And of course, with that then drives loyalty. And that's, I think, for me, like, it's the golden nugget right now. That's the one thing every retailer wants. They want you to keep coming back to them, not to the competition, but also they want you to be loyal to them. Because of course, we know loyalty means that you will spend more, you will come back more often. And of course, you're going to tell all your friends, your family, your colleagues all about how good that experience was. So for me, that's definitely where we're going. And I think really retailers doing that, Zeenish, are going to see themselves, really successful for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. It's no longer just about products. It's about people, purpose, and personalization. So you work internationally, helping retail teams deliver standout service. What are some universal customer expectations that cut across markets, and where do cultural differences still really, shape the experience?
Really, really good question. And it's interesting, like even the last year alone, like I would travel to India an awful lot. In the last year, I've been in Marrakesh, I've been in Paris, I've been in New York. I'm obviously in London a lot. Later this year, I'll be in Istanbul. And I suppose with all that, driving that customer experience, but in the way, again, that the customer wants it. So all of us as shoppers want to be seen, heard, and understood. And I don't think it matters where you are in the world, what it is you're buying. You want people to know you're there. You want people to take an interest. Now, I think the taking the interest thing might be what's different across kind of cultures. And then with that, the product categories, because again, we know it doesn't matter if you're shopping in Carrefour, you're shopping in IKEA, the product categories are changing across the world. How you pay is changing. There are cultural nuances. But again, I think retailers really get that right if they understand the specific market that they're in. And I think that's what's really important nowadays. We know and love so many of these global brands, but actually for them to really sit well in a specific culture or a specific market, they really have to deliver what's wanted locally. And I think that's really clever of a lot of big retailers right now. Yes, you might be massive, you might be global, you might be everywhere. But if you can localize your service, if you can localize your product and your offering, then it speaks volumes to everyone. And I suppose then you kind of want to ensure that those customers feel valued. So again, how are they playing the game? Do they want to come into your physical store? Do they want to shop with you online? Are they looking to kind of go on to TikTok shop, which is like the new latest phenomenon? You need to be showing up there because you've got to wow them wherever they might turn up. And I think then layering on top of all of this, you then need to figure out, well, are they looking for a more sustainable brand when they come to you? Are they looking for a trustworthy
Mhm.
brand? Are they looking to you because you've been around for 150 years and they know that they can trust you? So there's so much going on, I think, when it comes to delivering standout service, but it comes back to that basic that if you understand your customer, you'll be able to match the service to what exactly they need.
I mean, I love that. The balance of consistency and local nuance is something retailers really need to get right, staying relevant. Going to your podcast, the Retail Tea Break, it has become a go-to for retail professionals. What inspired you to create that platform, and what kinds of global insights or myths have you been surprised to cover through it?
I think first and foremost, I'm still amazed that people listen because I didn't start this as a business. It's not my full-time job at all. You know, as you mentioned
Uh,
in your gorgeous introduction, I've over 25 years in the industry. I started on the shop floor like a lot of people do. I had that little
mhm,
part-time job when I was at school. It stayed with me through university and even doing my master's. I'm curious. And I think retail is such a gorgeous industry, Zena, that it's changed so much. There's so much agility there. We've been forced to change if it comes to,
mhm,
you know, the introduction of the mobile and how important that was to Apple, or it comes to COVID. We have to
yeah,
consistently change and adapt to what we're doing. So I suppose when I started the podcast in 2021, I was just curious to have conversations, and not just with the people around me here in the west of Ireland, but, you know, further afield, further across the globe. And also then I
mm,
started to be really honest and say, I know my part of retail. You know, I've worked my way up through the shop floor. I train a lot of teams right now. But as you've already mentioned, you know, we've got omnichannel, we've got e-commerce, we've got all these different apps, you've got all the tech stack behind it. Like there's so much about retail that I don't really know about, that being able to
mhm,
have the conversations on the Retail Tea-Break podcast allowed me to ask the right people who knew and understood what they were doing, who were the experts in their area. And I think from then it's opened my eyes to what else is going on. But also I now know from the audience. So all the feedback I get, the insights I get, the conversations I've had around the world with people that are listening, it means that it's working. I am spreading those insights. I am allowing people to kind of think about maybe the conversations they should be having in their retail business, which is so important
mm,
because if we stand still, retail dies or business dies. And
yeah,
we do unfortunately see that a lot at the moment, that the retailers that are stale, that aren't listening to the customers, that aren't innovative, they're not going anywhere. And of course, they're not making money. And then I suppose to answer that other part, the shared challenges, I think, have been the positive because, as I've said, people are really open and honest on the podcast and are talking about the good and the bad in the business, which is fantastic because it means that
yeah,
people don't feel they're alone out there. Because again, it's not fancy, or it's not kind of clever sometimes to talk about the bad stuff.
yeah,
But I think the more we're open and we're honest about it, the more people appreciate what's really going on and maybe how they're not alone. But on the flip side, what's really lovely is I think the biggest myth I probably busted is you don't have to be in one of these massive big cities to drive innovation. You don't have to
mhm,
have billions of dollars to have the latest new solution. That if you're listening to your customer and if you're willing to try something and not stand still, then actually it doesn't matter where in the world you are, whether you're in a tiny town, whether you're in a village, you can still
mhm,
do that and it will still drive your customer to come into you. And of course, if you're doing
yeah,
that, well, then your retail's working, then you're winning at retail. And I think
yeah.
that's really what we all want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's something so refreshing about honest and real conversations in the retail industry. So you also train retail teams around the world. From what you've seen, what are the key elements that consistently drive great customer experiences, no matter the country?
You know, that's a brilliant question. Even this week, I've been with one of our biggest retailers training one of their teams. And what I've
Hmm.
really realized is, do you know what? It doesn't matter what I think per se. I design training specifically for the retailers. So, for instance, this week we were talking about customer centricity. So, they didn't call it
Hmm.
customer service, they didn't call it customer experience. They wanted to frame it as customer centricity. And that's
Hmm.
fantastic because that's what works for them. It's what they're driving with their teams and their people on the ground. And then I built out a training around that. And actually, what I found really training teams is that if you can pull things apart and put it back together, it makes sense for them. So again, it's not me standing in a room talking at someone for 3 hours or 6 hours. it is that conversation. And actually, then when you start to think about it, it mirrors what's happening on the shop floor. It mirrors what's
Mhm.
happening in emails to and from companies. And then layering on top of that, I think the three key things that I think are so important, and also the retailers are really starting to listen to and act on, and that really drive the experience. And again, as you said, doesn't matter where you are in the world, it's empathy. So it's this human skill.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you need to know and understand your customer. You need to listen to them. So empathy is definitely the first one. The second one, and you'll find these are three easy dish. It's amazing. So the empathy, empowerment. So empowerment of your people. If you can't empower your retail team, how on earth are they meant to empower your customers? Because to me, and I've said this since I worked on the shop floor, a happy team equals a happy customer. So empowerment, you have to, because again, we're in an age now where across the world, retail's not seen as like the fancy job anymore. It's kind of seen as
Yeah.
one you might do at college and then you walk away from. But I've had an incredible career in this industry. So if you can keep people and retain them, it'll pay back dividends. So empathy, empowerment, and the final one, which I hope you think I've got in bucket loads, energy. You have to have energy that matches your customer. And of course, if you have it as a retail leader, the people around you will have that energy. And it's infectious in a really gorgeous way. So I think for me, they're the three kind of key elements that will constantly drive experience,
Mhm.
but also they make you money, because if you can make your teams happy and have empathy with them and empower them and have that energy, they're going to drive those sales into your till as well, because they'll be so excited to turn up every day to meet your customer in the best possible way. And of course, that customer's going to keep coming back. So for me, it's win-win. If you train your teams, whether it's online with me, whether it's in person with me, it will make you money at the end of the day, and everyone will be on that journey with you.
Yeah, I mean it's that human element, that stays with people, definitely. So you teach across apprenticeship, undergraduate, and postgraduate levels as well. So how do you prepare students today for a global retail landscape that is changing so rapidly?
Rapidly is right. So I'm one of these people that constantly updates my modules, my decks, what I'm teaching, the sources I use. And in that
Hmm.
respect, I find things like having a kind of a pool of retail experts across the world brilliant. I use LinkedIn a lot. I'm constantly out and about and looking for new sources. So in that respect, if anyone listening has a great example, maybe they're building a new store, they've opened a new store, let me know,
Hmm.
because I love taking the best of what's out there across the globe, across
Hmm.
categories, whether it's fashion or grocery, and bringing that to the classroom. Because for me, most people I teach have some sort of experience, whether it's in sales or retail, but they're coming
Hmm.
to, I suppose, upskill and empower themselves to be better, to know more, to get out there and really help and support the retail industry. I think
Hmm.
for me, it's teaching them to be in this agile state of retail. So as we've already said this morning, it's not something that stands still, because if it does, you're doing something wrong. So critical thinking is super important in retail. Whether you're working on the shop floor, whether you're working in C-suite or head office, you have to be able to adapt how you're thinking and what you're doing. So critical thinking for me, you've got to be curious, because again, retail is ever changing. It doesn't matter what category you're in. You have to be kind of curious or nosy. I like the word nosy as well. You need to know what your competition's doing, what's going on in other
Yeah.
countries, because they might be further ahead than you are. And that's a really good thing, because they could be doing really well. They might be making the mistakes. But again, to see and know what's out there. And even from a tech perspective, then, I was really lucky to be at NRF, the National Retail Federation, the massive show in New York in January. So 40,000 people all under one roof at Javits. And again, to go around and look at the solution providers who might not be ready right now, but they might be in a year or two, and to know that innovation is coming is super important. And I bring that back to the classroom as well, because again, for the new or the next generation of retail leaders, it's really important that they know what's coming up next. And then married kind of with this staying curious, you have to kind of look on the other side. You have to be willing to embrace the change. So, so had I said to a classroom even 5 years ago, we're going to have this thing called Chat GPT, everyone's going to be
Yeah.
looking at AI, like you have to be willing to adapt and change to that. So whether it's a new till system, whether it's a new kind of website, whether it's a new product category, you have to be willing to kind of know if it's right for the business and it's there in the strategy. You have to be willing to drive that change, because again, it keeps coming back to, if we stand still, we're going to die. Retail will never stand still. The customer will never stand still. So to have
Yeah.
that flexibility, I think to know and understand what's next for you and what's next for your customer means that you'll always be ahead. And I think it doesn't matter if you're an apprenticeship level, it doesn't matter if you're at postgrad level, to know that
Hmm.
you can support your retailer in the best possible way because you're curious, you're willing to change, you have
Yeah.
that ability to kind of think differently, I think is really special. And I think I'm so lucky to be able to put myself in front of the next generation of retail leaders. Like, I'm so proud of that. It's such an incredible opportunity for me to give back,
Yeah.
but also to learn from them. So it's an amazing
Yeah.
opportunity for me to kind of keep that going and also spread the word that if you're in retail, it doesn't matter what level you're at, there's always more to learn, which is gorgeous as well.
Yeah, and one part of the learning is from the events, like we have the Saudi Retail Show in October. So there's a lot of learning that can happen there as well. So you've received like international recognition from being named the top retail expert to joining the RTM Nexus Leadership Council. What does that kind of global acknowledgement mean to you for your work and message?
It's something you said that there, and I kind of smiled, and yet I felt slightly embarrassed. I still don't realize that someone like me can have those titles. As I said, I started on the shop floor at 16. I kind of, I hung up the clothes that were coming out of the boxes. I worked in the stock room. I manned the fitting room. I put product on the shelf. To have come all this way because I love what I do and I'm very passionate is incredible. It's really humbling. But actually, I use those stories even in the classroom, not to big myself up, but also to say to them, look what you can do. Look at the change you can make. Look at the difference or the
Yeah.
importance that your knowledge has become. Because again, I think that's something in retail that we don't always recognize is we're a retail industry. We're an incredible employer. So for me to be able to share those insights, those expertise that I now have, also to have the conversations on the podcast is just really empowering. So it helps me propel myself forward. But also it's great to know that there are other people watching and listening and learning that I'm inspiring as well. And again, not to put myself up there on such a big kind of high horse, but it's lovely to know that I've surrounded myself with people that are so positive because that's to me what it is. Being recognized is about saying that I'm not the best in the world, but I'm on a journey and I'm learning and I'm trying to bring everyone with me as well. But also, I think it stands to this networking thing. Because for me, retail, and I wish I'd known that working on the shop floor 25 years ago, retail is about networking. For the people within the industry, like you and I, you have to be able to lean on other people, listen to what they're doing, learn from them. And so I suppose being acknowledged is part of that journey. It's opened doors to other things. It's allowed me. So, I've done a lot of work in London this year, emceeing different shows. I've been able to interview people live on stage. That's all come as well from this acknowledgement. So I'm very grateful for it. It still feels a bit weird, but I'm truly kind of inspired to see what else it can kind of fuel, what else could be around the corner, and hopefully bring more people on that journey with me as well.
Well, it's actually really important that you love what you do so that, that passion keeps you going in that field. So my last question for you would be, with everything happening in retail, digital disruption, economic pressure, rising customer expectations, what's one piece of advice you'd offer to retailers or brand teams trying to stay resilient and relevant across global markets?
It's a great question, and I suppose it's so hard right now. But, being an educator, I had to pull a bit of data. PwC said that 32% of customers would stop doing business with the brand they love after just one bad experience. And I think for me, that's the crux of it, that we have to keep driving this customer experience, but on a personalized level. So hyper personalized if we can, that it's got to be about the customer, but it's got to be about showing up in a way that they want. Not that I want as a retailer. So if that means showing up on TikTok Shop, if that means showing up on an app, if that means ensuring that there's someone to answer a question at 3 a.m. in the morning because there's a mother who's been up all night with her baby, if she's your customer and that's your customer base, that's exactly what you need to do. So I think for me, the big kind of takeaway or the big bit of, I suppose, advice or mission that I'm certainly driving at the moment is you've got to be obsessed, and not just you as a C-suite or a leader. your whole team or the whole senior team, everyone working in your retail store or your shopping center or your mall should be customer obsessed, and you need to keep revisiting that as well over time. It's not something you do once when you start a business and then you walk away from. You should constantly be talking to, listening to your customer. And then on the flip side, so if we have the customer on the one side, well, the other most important advice I say to everyone is listen to your team. They're the biggest marketing tool you have is your team meeting your customers. So again, I suppose if you're customer obsessed, be team obsessed, be really focused on driving them, whether it's with training with someone like me, whether it's listening to the good and the bad of what they're finding. It could be product categories that are working well or that aren't working well, a service that you're rolling out that's working well or it isn't working well. But again, if we can listen to and talk to our teams as well, I think for me, that's the biggest advice. There's two groups of people there. They definitely intermix as well, of course. But if we can listen to our customer and listen to our team, I think that looks after your business for you. It really, really does.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's great advice. Thank you, Melissa. It has been a great conversation that we had today. And this has been Retail Par Talks. We'll see you next time with more voices shaping the next chapter of retail. Thank you.